Tonight, the final face-off.
We're about to go into a dark winter.
With the coronavirus front and center.
We're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner.
In a more genteel debate, even for this rancorous pair.
The laptop is now another Russia hoax?
That's exactly what.
This is where he's going. The laptop is Russia.
Gentlemen, I want to stay on the issue of race.
You have to be kidding.
The last between the president and the Democratic presidential nominee, 11 days before the election.
Plus the number 9.
It's getting out of whack.
Where Joe Biden stands on the Supreme Court.
And ending on a boom, the Watchmen on the lookout for the big bang at the end of the line.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Peace spreading in the Middle East. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jenna Browder.
Good evening. I'm John Jessup. Tonight, the United States brokering yet another Mideast peace deal. Israel and Sudan now agreeing to normalize relations.
The White House sponsored accord ending decades of hostility. One of the largest countries in Africa, now the latest predominantly Arab nation to join in a peace deal with Israel, behind the UAE and Bahrain. And today, the president said there are more peace deals on the horizon.
We're doing them one by one. We did Sudan. They wanted to do a deal, and that was in particular nice because they've essentially been at war with Israel for a long time. I don't know if it was fighting. I don't know that, but probably there's been a little bit, but certainly it's been for many years you've been officially at war with Sudan, and now it's not only the deal was signed, but it's peace. So that's official, and that's nice. We have at least 5 that want to come in. And we'll have many more than that very soon.
And when you say want to come in, you mean?
Want to come into the deal. In other words, yeah, part of the peace deal.
And you said Saudi.
And you know what it's costing the United States? Nothing. Nothing. It's so nice. Isn't that nice?
President Trump announced the agreement in the Oval Office during a speakerphone interview with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The deal follows the conditional decision of the U.S. to remove Sudan from the list of state sponsors of terrorism. In exchange, Sudan is pledging $335 million in compensation to American victims of past terror attacks and their families. This includes the 1998 bombings of the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania by al-Qaeda under the leadership of Osama bin Laden. The move comes, John, just 11 days before the presidential election.
Well, speaking of the election, President Trump is back on the campaign trail, Jenna, barnstorming battleground states with 2 stops in Florida. The whirlwind tour, of course, follows a night of dialed-down rancor at last night's final presidential debate.
The final face-off between President Trump and Joe Biden featured plenty of barbs, and the former vice president, he scrambled to defend himself over a stunning statement. CBN's Eric Phillips has the story.
Both candidates behaved more this time around while still getting in their jabs. Many answers and lines sounded familiar until one sweeping statement had the former vice president backpedaling after the debate. The debate parked on the environment for several minutes.
We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
I know more about wind than you do.
Then Biden said this.
Would you close down the oil
By
industry?
the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I will
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement.
That's a
because
big statement.
I would stop.
Why would you do that?
Because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
Will you remember that, Texas? Will you remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Biden clarifying during an interview after the debate.
We're not going to get rid of fossil fuels. We're going to get rid of the subsidies for fossil fuels, but we're not going to get rid of fossil fuels for a long time. It will not be gone for probably 2050.
It was the former vice president himself who made the first reference to the alleged scandal involving his son Hunter, facilitated by Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani.
What is happening with his buddy, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn.
The emails allegedly found on a laptop in Delaware indicated Biden met with an executive of a Ukraine gas company while he was VP and while his son Hunter was employed by it, raising questions of conflict of interest.
I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing.
Biden calls it part of a smear campaign, possibly involving Russian interference.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
That's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This is where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You have to be kidding.
On the hot-button issue of race relations, Trump said that no U.S. president, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln, has done more for black people, adding,
I'm the least racist person in this room.
But Biden reminded viewers of the president's reluctance to denounce white supremacy during their first debate, specifically the Proud Boys.
Last time we were on stage here, he said, I told him to stand down and stand ready.
The night included a discourse on the pandemic, the optics clear as Biden came on stage with a mask, the president without.
I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital, I had it, and I got better, and I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they would call it. Some people could say it was a cure.
Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America.
There was a mic kill switch implemented for this debate.
And we're going to do even better.
But it was used sparingly, though both candidates got in their jabs.
There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. He's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan that we've been waiting since 17, 18, 19, and 20.
You put tens of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why, Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
The moderator asked both men why a new coronavirus relief package had not been signed, especially with indications the pandemic is worsening again. Both sides blamed the other for the lack of progress while insisting they are ready to move forward for the American people. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
All right, thank you, Eric. Here now to discuss, Julia Manchester, political reporter with The Hill. Julia, just a small percentage of Americans say they're undecided leading up to last night's debate. What do you think? Did last night's performance by either candidate shake things up or move the dial?
You know, I don't know how much it did move the dial with specifically undecided voters. However, I did talk to a few Republican strategists earlier today who said they think a lot of Senate Republicans or people working with Senate Republicans to reelect them and defend their majority in the Senate are definitely breathing a sigh of relief. Look, when President Trump took to the debate stage earlier this month in the first presidential debate, he really came across as unhinged and turned a lot of people off in focus groups watching. However, last night it was clear that President Trump very much had listened to his advisors and came across much more measured than he did before. That being said, we do know that fact checkers were very much at work fact checking him and Vice President Biden for any missteps they made or misstatements they made during the debate.
One major misstep from Biden came when he said he would transition from the oil industry. Julia, how much will that gaffe hurt him in energy-heavy states, most notably battleground Pennsylvania?
You know, I think it does definitely have the potential to hurt him because of the fact that, obviously these are energy heavy states, and a lot of people, despite the fact that the energy industry is going in a renewable direction, a lot of people still rely on the non-renewable energy industry. So I think it could hurt him. That being said, there is record turnout in a lot of these states, record early vote turnout, record mail-in turnout. So I think a lot of voters have already made up their mind. And I think, looking at someone like Joe Biden, I think unlike Hillary Clinton, he's viewed more as moderate. So I think that helps. At the same time, though, they do tie him to the Obama administration, obviously, and the push towards renewable energy. So I think President Trump was smart to bring up those battleground states. But ultimately, I don't think it's going to swing the pendulum that much.
Julia, back to our top story tonight. Another Mideast peace deal brokered by this administration. How much do you think the president can use this to leverage those undecided voters with just 11 days to go to the election?
You know, I think he's going to use it quite a bit. This is a big accomplishment. We've heard him talking about, you know, his progress in the Middle East and his work in the Middle East on the campaign trail and in the past. We do know that President Trump is falling behind in the polls, and that, you know, he's behind on Joe Biden on a number of issues, including foreign policy. Remember, Joe Biden has an extensive foreign policy Rolodex going back 40 years or so. So it's a lot for President Trump to try to match up with him on that issue. So this is good for President Trump. That being said, I don't think foreign policy is at the top of voters' lists when they go to the ballot box, especially this year when we're in an economic recession and a global pandemic.
Julia, finally, Judge Amy Coney Barrett's Supreme Court nomination will go to the full Senate for a vote on Monday, just 1 week away from the election at that point. This has got to fire up voters on both sides of the aisle.
It absolutely fires up voters. It's going to fire up, I would say, liberal voters who are already, you know, obviously upset with her nomination and how it was pushed through the Senate. We are seeing those liberal groups raise a ton of money off of this, but we're still waiting to see how it will work with conservative voters or Republican-leaning voters. Remember, President Trump campaigned on, you know, appointing, nominating conservative judges to courts across the country, including the Supreme Court. He's clearly delivered on that. However, we don't know if Republicans will necessarily go to the ballot box, or independent voters who maybe lean Republican will essentially go to the ballot box.
Right there, we are out of time. I'm so sorry. Julia Manchester with The Hill, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. Well, to the pandemic. Tonight, a green light for the first treatment for COVID-19. The FDA has approved an antiviral drug. Gilead's remdesivir is now the first and only fully approved COVID treatment in the U.S. The drug is what President Trump was given at the White House and Walter Reed during his bout with the virus earlier this month. The FDA approval comes after a record-breaking day, with the U.S. reaching some 77,000 cases on Thursday alone.
Coming up, the controversy around the Supreme Court and a potential plan to pack the court by adding more justices. After this.
This election night, with a country divided and America's future hanging in the balance, go to a place you can trust. CBN News. CBN News presents an election night special with live coverage starting at 7 p.m. Get live updates on each of the campaigns, plus analysis on the shifting balance of power. Watch November 3rd at 7 p.m. on the CBN News Channel or download the CBN News app. CBN News, because truth matters.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, you know, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. Election day now just 11 days away.
Jenna, it's hard to believe. And one major issue is the Supreme Court and whether Joe Biden would pack it with more justices than 9. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy reports.
I will ask them to, over 180 days, come back to me with recommendations as to how to reform the court system, because it's getting out of whack.
The former vice president making those remarks to 60 Minutes following the ongoing controversy over packing the Supreme Court.
One thing I can say is that the real energy in the Democratic Party is to pack the court, is to expand it from 9 to whatever number they need to make it liberal.
Biden said the commission's charge would be broader than packing the court, but that remains the key issue for Senate Republicans.
Even Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who I greatly admire, had said that 9 is the right number. We have had 9 Supreme Court justices for now over 150 years.
9 has served us well. I know people are mad.
Democrats are mad after Senate Republicans move forward with a vote on President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Judge Amy Coney Barrett. If confirmed, she would cement a conservative majority in the high court. A Gallup poll this week showed the public's support of her confirmation 51 to 46%, while a New York Times poll reveals they overwhelmingly oppose the idea of packing the Supreme Court 58 to 31%.
Our founding fathers would roll over in their graves if they saw what's happening and being discussed right now by Chuck Schumer and the Democrats.
Now, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has said everything is on the table if they get the majority. But at this point, it's still unclear exactly what Biden would do. Ben Kennedy, CBN News.
Thank you, Ben. Up next, the existential threats right above our heads and the scientists who work to predict and prevent global catastrophe.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30. Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
Welcome back. Turning overseas, the State Department has issued a warning to American citizens in Turkey. Government officials say they have received credible reports of potential terrorist attacks and kidnappings against U.S. citizens and foreign nationals in Istanbul, including against the U.S. Consulate General. In the midst of terror warnings and as the world deals with the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, we're learning new information on the other threats to civilization.
Beyond pandemics, our world faces natural hazards from asteroids to volcanoes and even solar storms. CBN's Gabe LaMonica spoke to some of the scientists monitoring those global risks.
Existential scenarios like an asteroid hitting Earth face pretty long odds.
The likelihood of that happening are literally astronomical.
But just in case, the Earth has a watchman on the lookout for exactly the kind of threat that wiped out the dinosaurs.
So we now have the technology to detect these things far in advance.
Lindley Johnson is NASA's Planetary Defense Officer.
We believe we have already found all of the near-Earth asteroids that are of that size that could cause the same kind of catastrophe that occurred to the dinosaurs. But there are still a few large ones to find out there.
Johnson and other planetary defenders have a plan to redirect an asteroid potentially heading for Earth. And next summer, NASA will test that capability for the first time by crashing a probe into an asteroid's moon, knocking it off orbit and off course.
We've been given the tools to prevent this ever happening to us again, and so we should use them.
The watchers call scenarios like these high-impact, low-probability events.
Up from the crater of 4,000-foot-high Mount Vesuvius rise towering clouds of smoke and volcanic ash.
The 1944 eruption of Mount Vesuvius rained down on the Naples area some 2,000 years after it destroyed Pompeii.
This sort of gets into social science.
Geophysicist Michael Poland is with the U.S. Geological Survey.
How do you coordinate an evacuation of a city of millions? There are environments like that all over the world, not just Naples, but environments like that in Indonesia and the Philippines. You know, there was an eruption of Taal volcano in the Philippines, which is only a few tens of kilometers south of Manila, where there's millions of people that live. And if there had been a very large eruption of that volcano, fortunately the eruption was small and no one died, but if there had been a large eruption, how do you coordinate a really mass evacuation?
There's no stopping a volcano.
No, occasionally we get this question, like, why don't you just drill into the volcano and pump water down there? And the scale of the problem is really incomprehensibly big. So no, you can't stop a volcano from erupting. You might be able to divert some of the products, but the best mitigation methods we have today are to get out of the way.
The eruption of Mount St. Helens.
In just minutes, the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens resulted in 57 lives lost and hundreds of millions of dollars in damage. After destroying every living thing within 230 square miles, the devastation forced the world to take volcano monitoring a little more seriously.
The science of eruption forecasting certainly has advanced quite a lot. We can recognize eruptions that are becoming restless based on patterns in earthquakes, ground deformation, gas emissions.
Poland also oversees the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory.
In Yellowstone, the worst case scenario is always a tremendous explosion of the kind that last happened about 631,000 years ago. That was one of these super eruptions that occur on average maybe every 50 to 100,000 years somewhere on the planet.
Scientists think that worst case scenario is also the least likely to happen. But if it did...
It's not going to cause our extinction. That's not to say that it wouldn't be pretty devastating. Sure. These sorts of eruptions would be immediately devastating to everything around them, out to a radius of hundreds to thousands of kilometers.
While hundreds of active volcanoes exist around the world, another threat hangs right above our heads. Luckily, this July 23, 2012 eruption on the sun that sent giant particle clouds hurtling through space at 6.7 million miles an hour missed the Earth.
We monitor the sun 24/7.
Dr. Doug Biesecker is a solar physicist with NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center.
What keeps me up about space weather is missing the forecast of the 1 in 100 year sort of storm, the sort of storm that would cause widespread power outage. You know, you could imagine a lot of the, maybe the entire Northeast losing power for at least a few hours, if not for a day or more.
In 1859, one of these eruptions hit Earth. Now known as the Carrington event, it's the largest geomagnetic storm on record.
The technology of the day was the telegraph, and telegraph operators were able to disconnect their batteries and use the electricity caused by the solar storm to run their systems.
Today, a Carrington-like event would be similar to an electromagnetic pulse, or EMP. In that case, the plan is a temporary shutoff to save the grid.
What I can tell you is in this country, we work very closely with the power grid operators to make sure that we can keep the lights on even in an extreme event.
So there's different levels they can reach before they hit the big red button that turns it all off.
Right. And you know, the current thinking is we'll never have to hit the big red button, even in an extreme case.
We might not be able to predict or prevent every catastrophe or global disaster, but having early warning systems in place is always a good idea. Gabe LaMonica, CBN News.
Great reporting, Gabe. Coming up on the eve of what's bound to be an unusual trick-or-treat season, the unique star of the litter you have to see for yourself, a symbol of hope or a pup in a Halloween costume. Next.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Watch On the Home Front today at 2:30. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Finally tonight, an Italian dog owner in Sardinia got a surprise when one of his farm dogs gave birth to a litter of 4 white puppies. And Jenna, get this, one with green fur.
Yeah, the farmer named the pup Pistachio and says he plans on training him to look after sheep.
Oh.
And there is Pistachio. Well, while extremely rare, pale-colored puppies can turn green in the womb when they come into contact with a pigment also responsible for the green color in bruises you and I sometimes get. That farmer said that the color green represents hope and luck, and during these crazy times we're living in, he hopes Pistachio's birth brings a smile to people's faces. And speaking of bringing a smile to people's faces, we have to mention our producer, Gabe LaMonica, tonight. A moment to say farewell to an integral player on our Faith Nation team for the past nearly 2 years.
You saw him in that last story, but Gabe LaMonica's official title is Senior Coordinating Producer, but that doesn't capture all the hats he's worn at CBN News.
This is the National Mall. All right, here we go. Ooh, it might not even fit through the hoop.
From his very first days in the middle of our midterm election coverage to producing Faith Nation, helping to expand our Faith Nation political panels, along with his own hand at storytelling, Gabe not only has helped to make our coverage better, he's made us better.
And we are sad to say goodbye, but Gabe, we wish you all the best.